call this regular meeting of the Hopewell Borough Council on October 9th, 2025 to order.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by notice mailed to Hopewell Valley News and the Trenton Times, posted on the bulletin board in Borough Hall, and filed with the Borough Clerk as required by law.
Thank you. The flag salutes. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here.
Mr. Fuller.
Here.
Ms. Hook. Here. Mr. Mackey.
Here.
Ms. Steeler. Here. Ms. Weaver. Ms. Williams. Here.
Okay, I'll take a motion for resolution 2025-106 to retire executive sessions for 3 possible legal matters. All right, that was first, I'm second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. We will hold executive session. Those watching online, we will return at 7 p.m. Thank you. Alright, good evening, everyone, on Zoom and here in person. We're gonna resume our regular, October meeting of the Hopewell Borough Council. Council did, have executive session at 6 o'clock, so we did our, call to order and, flag salute then, and we are starting of item 5, resuming public session. Next items are, we had our packet reports of the Director of Public Works and Water and Sewer. Anyone have any questions for administrator? Now would be the time. Next, item, sorry, take that as no. Next, our standing placeholder for updates on our water system sales. Want to thank everyone who worked on, attended, or watched the information session in September. Reminder that the video is up online as well as video from the other sessions, some other information there. So please visit the water website for all the information that we have on the sale. And a reminder, there's dates coming up, particularly October 14th is the last day to register to vote. So please check to make sure you are registered to vote. Early voting is available for the Saturday through the Sunday, well, more than a week before voting. And if you're getting your vote by mails in the mail, please make sure you use it and vote. With that, then our next item is we have a presentation by a kind of subcommittee for Halloween. So bear with me. I will try to get that up on screen. And Deb or Sherry or Krista, whoever's been working on it, please feel free. Give me 1 second to just. It's on the screen here, but not yet shared on Zoom. And I will take credit. I did. That's my pumpkin.
You
I
did?
carved that last year. Nice. You know, the cat is one of my kids. I can't take credit for that level of detail. But anyway, whoever would like to start, Deb, Jerry, whoever, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, everyone. So we're very excited this year to announce the creation of a Halloween safe zone on Friday, October 31st. Our plan is to shut down Columbia Avenue to all vehicular traffic for that night, starting at 5:30. We're looking forward to having a pedestrian walking zone for the length of the street. And we've obviously made plans for emergency vehicles to have access as needed. Columbia Ave, as everybody is probably aware, is the busiest and most popular section of town for trick-or-treaters and their families. There's always been at least 500 kids that come by. So far, there's been no incidents, but we'd like to keep all of our kids safe. So the Borough Council, we're partnering with the Hopewell Recreation Committee, the Hopewell Valley Police, the Fire Department and EMS Services, and the Hopewell Valley Office of Emergency Management, as well as all the residents of Columbia Avenue to create a fun pedestrian walkway for that night. All the details about specific cross-street closures and parking are still being finalized in partnership with the police and the emergency services teams. We'll have multiple offices from the police will be patrolling that night, and they'll have some cars on site. And I believe there's a rumor they're gonna have some trunk or treating going on. It should be fun. Residents will be asked to use alternative parking off of Columbia Ave as needed and to limit street parking. And we're gonna try to make arrangements for alternate parking if we can. Emergency vehicles will be have access to make calls using Greenwood Ave. And they'll also obviously have access to the pedestrian-only Halloween zone throughout the event as needed. And residents would be allowed to exit their driveways in an emergency during the close. So for communications, all impacted residents will be receiving a mailed letter with information on closure and process for emergency access for the night of Halloween. Updates and reminders will be emailed. Ryan sends out the Borough Blast on Sunday nights with information, and the Borough website will also be updated with information on plans and procedures for the evening. We're hoping again that families take advantage of this pedestrian zone and plan to spend the evening strolling down Columbia Avenue. The Recreation Department volunteers encourage residents of Columbia Ave to decorate their homes to rival Halloween and nearby towns. I think we can beat Lambertville eventually. Let's show them what Hopewell is all about. I think council is planning to having a tent, set up along the route to give out some candy, and we're hoping everybody can walk to view the costumes and some home, decorations, so hopefully we can have a fun night. And that's it.
Thank you. We'll thank the subcommittee and administrator, current and former, Hopewell Township Police Department, ROEM, liaison, are the Hope Valley Emergency Services. There's a lot of people assembled to make sure this will make sense, and the specific, I believe it's both, it'll be both sides, Columbia on either side of Princeton, and specific information about which roads will be closed and when will go out to residents, but just as a kind of a preliminary
Yes.
heads up, right? Excited. 1 second to stop the screen share here. But our next item will be public comments, so I will, as I fumble to get my cursor to the stop shares button here. I'm gonna open the floor to the public. Mayor and council take comments first from members of the public attending in person, then from members of the public attending via Zoom. If you're on Zoom, push the raise hand button. We're gonna limit people here. And then for the first of our 2 public comment sessions, we usually do to 5 minutes, or let's try to, and no immediate action be taken on the public comment issue. With that, I'll ask you to state your name. No need to give you your full address, and feel free to address the council.
Hi, everyone. David Waldman, East Prospect Street. I'm going to read from a prepared statement. I intend to file an action in lieu of prerogative writs to block the clerk from counting the vote on the referendum, as the language of the referendum is misleading and does not accurately reflect the terms of the contract with New Jersey American Water.
Thank you for that. Anyone else have any comments? Person? Line? So, here.
Good evening, Keith Hovey, Lafayette Street.
Okay.
Keith Hovey, H-O-V-E-Y. So, I have a comment just with respect to, the referendum, and first and foremost, I just want to make sure that it's clear. I'm not for or against selling the water system. So my point is going to be a rather discreet one, which is my concern is the contract, or at least the draft agreement that is out there that the voters would be voting on in connection with the referendum. So I think that to the merits of the proposal, right? Like, I think there's merit to seeking debt relief. I think it was understandable, and I think it's laudable that we're trying to address issues regarding the costs, both from a long-term standpoint of infrastructure, as well as costs currently borne by the ratepayers and the residents within Hopewell Borough. I know that you've all put a tremendous amount of time into it, into this project. I think my concern is that as a voter, when I'm looking at the referendum, and then what is ultimately, as a lawyer, right, who does this for a living, what is the agreement ultimately going to be between the borough and New Jersey American Water? So I read, it's a 117-page document, and I reviewed it as a lawyer would. And I have some concerns. The first and foremost concern is that it's a draft agreement. Now, if I was drafting this, the very simple remedy to that is you draft and execute a contract that has a contingency clause that says, in the event that the referendum passes, the document becomes self-executing. And if the referendum fails, then the contract automatically terminates. It's not a complicated provision. I'm not entirely clear why such a provision wouldn't be in it, because the concern I then have is as a draft agreement, what's not clear to me is the referendum then advisory or is it then binding, right? Because the agreement as a draft agreement could be modified after the referendum. And as a voter, that's concerning, because I would want to know ultimately, what are the final terms of the deal? Let's assume presumptively that this is the final deal. Well, then there are a couple representations that are being made that I don't see reflected in the agreement. First and foremost, people are saying, we're going to, most people are going to save money. I think, and I'm not saying that it hadn't been attempted, but what would be better from my perspective is that I don't see a reason why there wouldn't be a moratorium on rate increases, rather than deferring to New Jersey American Water and the BPU in making determinations as to whether or not rates would increase. We have the asset that they want. So why aren't we guaranteeing that everyone in the borough has a moratorium at a minimum or a rate reduction for at least a few years? Because under the contract as drafted, it is entirely possible that as soon as the ink is dry, that they're going to the BPU and seeking rate increases. There is nothing in the contract that precludes them from doing that. And there's nothing as a result of the request for the rate increase. We would be relying on the BPU in hopes that the BPU approval of a rate increase isn't in excess of what people are already paying. And that even assumes that everyone under the current recalculation, New Jersey American Water, would actually see their rates go down. And I haven't seen any assurances that in fact that is the case across the board for everyone. The other point I want to raise has to do with capital improvements. It is an undefined term in the contract. So not only is it an undefined term, that makes it ambiguous. And as a taxpayer, my concern is that when you have an ambiguity in the contract, and there is ultimately a dispute between the parties, that requires then litigation. In this case, arbitration, which can be very expensive because you're paying the arbitrator as well as paying your attorney. And the people who pay for those legal fees and the arbitrator are the ratepayers, i.e. the residents in this township, in this municipality. So with that, I guess the point I want to make is that if we're asking them and they're agreeing to make $7 million worth of improvement, and they're willing to do it within 5 years, those capital improvements should be enumerated, right? Because I don't want them repainting a couple sheds and replacing a couple shingles after a contract with a friend of theirs, and then turn around calling that $7 million worth of capital improvements, and then washing their hands and saying that they're done. So from an enforceability standpoint, it would be prudent that the capital improvements be enumerated in a contract in an appendix. And then just want to make sure one other point. That's
Not gonna stop you, but.
So,
that's fine.
and then I think so. As well as the fact that the other undefined is that there's reference to a comprehensive analysis of the system. And I think, like, again, that ought to be a defined term so that the parties know exactly what we're referring to when we're talking about capital improvement. The last is an enforcement mechanism. Currently, under the contract, the only remedy would be to go to arbitration. There is no oversight provision, meaning when the capital improvements are made, there's no opportunity for an independent inspection and approval by the borough. Give you an easy example. When I built my house, I had the contractor built it, we had a contract, there were certain provisions, but I still had my own independent inspector going in and inspecting the work to make sure it was getting done, because I don't have that expertise. Right? So the contract doesn't allow for that. And in the event that there is a breach, either they've got to fix it, or let's say hypothetically, rates do go up astronomically over the next 10 years. You do, or you could negotiate what's called a right of revision, right? Reversion, which means in property that you get the asset back. And then there are certain conditions you have to meet as well, but in the event that certain events don't happen as expected. So in other words, let's say hypothetically, in 10 years, rates go through the roof. Right, or capital expenses go through the roof and they're like, economically, we can't make these, we can't make these improvements. Well, then we would have the potential, if we wanted, to then step back in and say, okay, well then, we're gonna take the system back. We'll treat your capital improvements as a loan, and we'll just repay you at a reduced rate over time. What I'm saying is there are creative ways in which to make sure that things that are being claimed are supposed to happen, actually happen, and that there are viable remedies. But in short, I think the point is I think there could and ought to be a moratorium on rate increases. If that's the promise they're making, they should be able to stand behind it in a written agreement that would be enforceable by law. Capital improvements should be enumerated, and we should have the ability to an independent inspection to oversee it.
Thanks, Steve.
So, thank you very much, I appreciate it, that's time and the work they put in on the issue.
So some of those things, we can try to address a little bit. We have one of our attorneys from the transaction. We don't have our special outside counsel for this here tonight. So some of these things might be good for a follow-up. Keith, the first one though, and Lisa, stop me when I stray from reality here, but just the process under WIPA for a contract dictates that we do it this way. Rather than signing it, it goes as a draft to the Board of Public Utilities to be approved by them in this form. And under the statute, it cannot be executed or signed until the referendum. Was just a statutory process under Water Infrastructure Protection Act that dictates it. It's done this way. It's not a traditional draft. Lisa, want to add to that?
It's not really a draft any longer because the BPU actually issued an order approving this form of agreement. So if the referendum goes through, this agreement will be signed as is.
Sure.
Without the draft on.
So it's different than, while it's unsigned like a traditional draft would be, and I found this, honestly, as the person who posts these things to the website, particularly confusing because I wanted to find the signed one to include, and so that's
Right, but it is in final form because the BPU has essentially found it to be acceptable to the BPU and we're locked in. If the referendum goes through, this is the agreement that would be signed.
So just to be clear, the reason it's titled draft is because there's a referendum.
And also because of yes, right. Well, it would have been draft, even if there was no referendum, it would have been draft until the BPU approved it.
Yeah.
But because there's a referendum as well, it can't be signed
Because
because,
it hasn't
yes,
been-
and I understand the points being made. But this is just the process
Yeah,
that
I
we
just, I
have to
just wanna be
follow.
clear that it isn't
Right.
draft in that, like, it can then change
It,
later.
right, it can't,
That is
because of the BPU. The BPU has said, basically, this is it, this is what they've approved.
Right.
And yeah, that's it.
And that includes all of the rate schedules, the tariff references that are in, like. That's part of
Absolutely.
The approval was specifically the rate schedules that would apply, which are regional rate schedules, not specific.
Exactly, nothing is specific to the borough because it can't be.
Right.
It's the regional,
So I guess the rate action under the contract that they have to deliver to us is to put us to charge our residents the Schedule 1A tariff rate that Princeton or Montgomery or those other municipalities.
And the other schedules that are referenced, exactly. And then if the only way those rates would change would be by petitioning BPU to change the rates for
the entire region.
service
Exactly.
areas that are served under those tariffs.
Right, they can't just say, we want to recoup the money that we are paying from the borough specifically, and we're going to raise the borough's rates. That's not the way it works. It's just, that's not legally the way that the system works. If, it would have to be part of their next rate case, and it would be, any increase would be applicable across the board to the entire region.
And I guess also to rates, in many other sales where municipalities' rates were largely lower than the tariff rates, lower than the schedule that BPU had that would be applicable. One of the things that's negotiated is a phase-in or a moratorium of waiting until they would catch up essentially to keep the lower rates. Here, I guess the desire was to get to that largely lower tariff schedule, immediately rather than delay. And then once that happens, there's not really ability to
Right.
be
because
different than the tariffs.
Right, because you're in a very different posture than most municipalities, and most municipalities that are selling, their rates are actually lower than the tariff rate, so they want to maintain that, and there is a mechanism to do that. We know that because it's been done, but you guys are unique because your rates are so much higher, so you want the tariff rates. And I don't think there's a mechanism to go lower in that instance, unfortunately, that was
And-
never.
And of the, I want to prejudice what was discussed or maybe, negotiated bid or what some of the other bidders suggested, but to Keith's point, there are a group of users, whose the tariff rate is, higher. Like the smallest users in the municipality, I think would be about $11 a month more they would pay. We, I guess conceivably could have negotiated with them or maybe even did, but ended up somewhere else with maybe a delay in those rates catching up. But ultimately, I think the position the borough took was of the $1.2-ish million of savings a year, that the cumulative, they have right about $10,000. If you added up all of the increases at the lower end, can be made up by an adjustment to the sewer fee.
Right, so in aggregate, if you take people that were at 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, and 4,000 gallons per quarter, 5,000 and up are actually less expensive. And the largest difference between what you would pay under New Jersey American and Hopewell is for a user of 2,000 gallons. All the other users in that lower category, the difference is less, but the largest is that roughly $11 a month. But if you add up the number of users is based on 2024 data in each of those categories times the difference in cost, it adds up to $10,100 for the whole community, which is easily absorbed through our fee. So if we want to, for example, make an adjustment in the sewer rate,
It would be something we could use, and in the September 11th and the May presentation, there was some discussion. It's something that the borough could dedicate some of that $1 million of debt relief savings towards adjusting to make sure that that doesn't happen for those few.
There's also our understanding that I don't think you could, I think it was all or nothing with the rate, so you
Right.
couldn't, I don't think you could, they could change the rate for one class.
Right, I mean, I think because you're working on a regional tariff. right?
Exactly.
I mean, the whole idea was to make sure that, we're essentially paying the same rates as Princeton Township and all the other
Right.
counties around us, which are less for all but a few years. And again, the only reason that we have anybody that would be paying more is because we've been subsidizing rates for low volume users by charging more to our higher volume users. We have, that's the way we do. But the interesting thing about it is, so this threshold of 0 to 2,000 gallons, where you're basically using a fixed rate. For our sewer rates, the fixed rate is everything up to 10,000 gallons. So the thing is, if you're using 2,000 gallons of water per quarter, you're paying the same amount for your sewer. It's about $92 as somebody who's using 8,000 or 10,000 gallons. And that's actually something that we, would have to change. I mean, if we have the system, we would really have to harmonize that, because I think people are, in other words, you can adjust the rate structure within our sewer charges and
Absolutely.
and that $10,000, and suddenly you have a fairer system. It's just that honestly, the water system rates have been always the thing that we were focusing all our attention on, because the sewer collection system and the economics of it were always strong, and we weren't having trouble carrying it financially. So there's flexibility there.
I think Keith, amongst many other excellent points that you've made and often make in the course of just, the capital pieces is interesting, and, part of that, you know, and again, without prejudicing the discussions that we had to get to this contract. And I think I'd like to get a little bit more of support, maybe with a follow-up answer from the other attorneys that worked on this. But one was a function of, the type of work that they would need to do. If, for example, us insisting on an immediate reservoir replacement that may not be necessary if they are able to serve the borough predominantly through water through their interconnection. And the list that we have of what the borough will do if we maintain ownership is based on how we'll run the system. And we went back and forth about, you know, attempting to, you know, impose that on them and ultimately settle on that mechanism where they would study it interestingly after closing, and come up with their own plan. It's also, and again, I'll want some more backup from this from our professionals, because we have, you know, it's been a year or so since we looked at this particular parts of the contract, but their obligations kind of have to be looked at in conjunction with the regulatory scheme that governs them as a public utility and the WIPA process. So some of the items that they would consider doing as capital repairs that might not satisfy us locally, additionally wouldn't satisfy BPU for them ever getting approval for doing the work, or perhaps getting, you know, the way that a public utility makes money is by doing work and frankly, getting a rate of return for that, that they've spread across the state of New Jersey. So they wouldn't economically be incentivized to do something that will not count, as far as the state is concerned, as a capital repair that, you know, passes muster. So that's, you know, it's a.
But what you're saying is important, because if you look at like a base rate filing, or actually if you look at the foundation filings that go with their distribution system improvement charge, which is has to do with capital investment, they actually have to document and account for all the capital work that they've done up until that point, and do all the math on how that should be distributed. The other thing is, and I'll just mention that out of that, let's say $7 million, there are certain elements of it that are really mandatory. One is the lead service line replacement. So that has to happen by July 31st. I'm sorry, July 22nd of 2031. Everybody has to do that. We would have to do it. They would have to do it. Our estimate of the cost to us, if you were just to break that out, was about 1.2 million. But a big part of that is actually replacing both the publicly owned lead goosenecks and the services along Broad Street, which are all connected to the Broad Street main. And so in our capital plan, yeah, I think it's 4.8 million total for Broad Street. Basically, you're not going to replace the lead service lines without replacing the main and the valves and everything else that's attached to it, because it's all ancient. And so they would, I mean, just out of necessity, they would replace those mains, which is one of our top priority projects. But to Ryan's point, we would put in an 8-inch main, which would be a direct replacement, like for what we had. If New Jersey American were to buy in place, they may have, for other reasons having to do with their system, a larger diameter main. So the point is, we're not in a position to mandate the actual specifications for the things that are done. Another thing is that they are perhaps more strictly held accountable by the DEP for other regulatory things in a small system like ours. So for example, if you have a lot of unaccounted for water from leakage from mains, they have to address that. It's not something they can just look the other way. It's also a source of loss of revenue for them, because water is going into the ground. So there are things economically that are drivers toward fixing a lot of the main, and again, on our list of priority projects, it's also replacing, for example, valves that we are having trouble opening and closing whenever we have to make a repair. So in terms of their daily operations and the practical aspects of running a system, they would really have to do that stuff. They have to make sure that the fire hydrants are operational, and that any ones that are, you know, have a potential for freezing are replaced. And those are requirements that they have to, rules, I'm sure, somewhere in terms of, you know, maintaining adequate fire protection and pressure. So there's a lot of stuff that's baked in there in the regulatory side, and I can't attest to all of it, so I'm not an expert on this, but I've spent a little time looking at it, that they would have to do, the things that we have to do. And again, the point about the reservoir, I mean, if we were going to replace a reservoir, we'd probably replace it with a 300,000 gallon tank. If they were going to replace the reservoir, it might be a larger tank, or they might decide that in fact they don't really need it because they have a 1.5 million gallon tank at Drake's Corner. So there are, when they say they're going to do a comprehensive engineering analysis of the system, I think that's what that's about, is how does the borough, our water system, fit into their system, and what are the investments that they would make? So again, there may be things that they're going to do differently from what we would do if we were simply trying to maintain and preserve our isolated system.
Let me just add one more thing. Like you, I'm not a utilities attorney. We do have one, especially working this, so I think a lot of what you've asked, we're here trying to answer it. I think some of the stuff will connect with our regular outside counsel and special outside counsel, and I think some of the things, particularly on the capital things, the enforcement, how that works with the regulatory scheme, because you really, in my mind, can't just look at the contract in itself outside of the BPU and regulation and the WIPA stuff, but we'll task our people with, getting some better understanding for you, and we'll get you an answer on that, and perhaps it'd be a good thing to put on as a, we do get questions from time to time that make it into the frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is yet frequently, but it's a good one to be asked once, so I think it can make the list,
And good question.
even without asked a second time. But that might be beyond, the ability of us as lay people to answer at the point we might be at that, but we have, special outside counsel who did this and negotiated for us, and we'll task them with providing more information.
Yeah, and this isn't just a simple contract between two parties, it's a contract really with,
3 parties.
or 4 even, you have the DCA as well, right?
Yeah,
You have the
right.
BPU, it's an extremely complicated situation where you're under the jurisdiction of the BPU and DCA, but most of the BPU forever. So it's not like the BPU walks away. This is absolutely under the jurisdiction for all time. And it's not a simple, we're just selling it to some private organization. It's much heavier than that, much more significant than that.
And JDEP never walks away either.
No, absolutely not. So, but yeah, I mean, these issues were all, we don't have to get into all the specifics now because we can do it in a way that hopefully answers everybody's questions in a more coherent way.
Excellent questions and comments there, and I've got your contact information, I think, but we'll, as we have the answer, we'll let you know directly and then get it out, because that's, I think, of general interest as well. Thanks. Online, please, you want to push the raised hand button, now would be the good time for that. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to close the first of our 2 public comment. Oh, okay, please.
Hi, Tom Van Essen from 59 North Greenwood. Just a comment and then a question. I was actually really disappointed when I got the mailing from, I don't know if it was the door hanger or the mailing from New Jersey American Water with the endorsement of the council members. I think that was, I'm not saying it was illegal, but I think it was really inappropriate. It's a complicated situation because your well-intentioned and good idea about how to fix the system happens to align with the large corporations. And so that's a legitimate position to have, but I think it's really, it would have been a lot better if the citizens of this borough didn't see you what looks like shilling for the corporation. So I think on that level, it was inappropriate, and again, I wish you hadn't done it. And on another level, it also seems to me problematic that as political people with brands in the community, you were essentially getting advertising as by New Jersey American Water. You had, they sent your name to everybody in the borough as people who are, working the problem. And that's, a good thing to be working the problem, but I don't think it's a really good idea to have a large corporation, you know, sort of, supporting your sort of political brands. So I think I would urge the borough to think really carefully about doing that sort of thing. It was a really bad look from my perspective. And so then the follow-up question is, when did you, those borough council members that signed on to this, agree to this, when, and could you sort of just take us a bit behind the scenes, how you came to whatever arrangement you came to New Jersey American Water to get your names on those pieces of paper? And when did that happen? And was it their idea or was it your idea? Did you say to New Jersey American Water, you know, it would be a really good idea if we had our names on this brochure? Or did they come to you and say, you know, it would be a really good idea if you did this? I just have the feeling that this relationship has gone from strictly business to one of sort of partnership and advocacy in a way that it would be best to sort of at least keep under wraps.
So I guess I'll just say, it is the right and duty of everyone in this community, including and especially those elected officials, to advocate for what they think is best.
Agreed,
for this
and I thought your letter today, the letter that.
Which
you
I
sent on
paid
your-
for and-
I thought that was perfect.
And
But is the other thing, the other guys paid for, that's not your, that's not. It's not entirely your advocacy, it is also New Jersey American Water's advocacy.
you're correct,
And
and
I just think,
they paid for that, and they disclosed
and
who paid for that, and
they, well, okay,
I'll say, anyone who's asked me if I support this, I'll tell them that I do,
and that's
including
fine.
them. And I'm happy to help anyone who would like to know my position, hear what it is. I don't let anyone else speak to that point, but
I just do briefly, Tom. So from my perspective, I was careful not to engage in anything. Basically, that endorsement was something that came in very late in the game, and I really wanted to make sure that we got at least through that September 11th presentation. If I was going to take a public position on, you know, yes or no at all. I mean, I've spent so much time digging into the facts, trying to do the analysis, trying to present everything that we know. I didn't want to even offer an opinion on it. I mean, people may think that I have just because of how the presentations are, but I haven't. But at some point, I think it is important, at least for us on the water committee, to say, this is what we think is best for the community. And as you say, there are different ways of doing that. And I was asked if I would agree to, you know, an endorsement or, you know.
And by whom were you asked?
Pardon?
Now,
Oh,
who
by
asked?
Jersey American. No, they wanted to know
came
if
to
I
you.
would add my name to the list of people that endorsed it. And I thought about it very carefully. And I said I would only be willing to do that after the September 11th presentation, because I didn't want anything to, you know, cloud that. And I kind of struggle with it because I like to just speak for myself. I don't like to have anybody else speak. But as far as my brand, I don't think of myself as having a brand, and whatever it is, my brand's over in 2 months, because I'm not in office anymore. But and I understand your discomfort with it, and I thought about it, I struggled with it a little, and then I just thought, you know, at some point I have to say, what do I think is best for the community? And this was just another vehicle for doing that. That's the way I thought about it. And so I wrote an endorsement, the actual endorsement that they put, I think, somewhere on their social media, which I don't have, was something that I wrote. It wasn't something that they told me to say. It's what I believe. That was the decision I made, and that's the best explanation I can give you. It was very late in the game.
All right, well, I just expressing a level of discomfort at it. And again, I don't
No, I
grudge you any of the decisions you've made.
I-
This is really about the process.
Right.
And about what I feel is the inappropriate sort of, I mean, American, they're a big company, they're gonna do okay. I don't think they need your help so much. Okay, thank you.
Can I just say one thing, you know, I understand the concerns raised, but it's very important that it was not a council endorsement,
That's right.
absolutely not. It was not a
No, I was
council
speaking to
endorsement.
members of the council that made the endorsement.
Right, and but
and don't get me out, mayor too, I endorse it.
right, but it's important, I mean, all I'm saying is it's very important that they don't lose their First Amendment rights either. So if if they want to,
Do they being the council or the?
individuals, the individual, it was not a council endorsement, it's the individuals that made those decisions to be part of that endorsement, and they spoke as members of the community, not on behalf of council.
They were identified as council members, for what it's worth, and we all knew their council.
Right, and that's exactly right, you can't,
And-
right, and I'm just, you know, it's not splitting hairs, it's a really important legal distinction, that's.
And just to add, I mean, for what it's worth, I mean, we always sought your counsel.
Yes, yes, and we had a lot of
Saying
discussion,
that we're
a lot of
making a
people,
move on, you know,
Yeah.
what are the guardrails, legal and otherwise, and making sure that we stay there.
and there are a lot of
That's
guardrails,
always-
and there are a lot of guardrails on
Right.
advocacy, you know, the council cannot advocate, you know, as a body.
Right.
Because it adopted an ordinance that has the ballot question. It's just, it's not what council is supposed to do. However, and we looked at a lot of other communities and talked to a lot of lawyers and really did look at this issue very carefully. And, you know, the council members are not just sitting there saying you have to do this, because they're acting in their individual capacities, and they are supporting their positions with factual information. So they're not trying to mislead people. And I mean, you may have an opinion about that. People may have an opinion about that, but they're within the confines of law. And again, this was vetted by many people.
Mayor, if I may, and I'm brand new to this, so bear with me, but having been involved in other referendums and other locales, it's absolutely correct in that it was not a council endorsement. I mean, I haven't even seen the documents, but you'd have to pass a resolution, you'd have to go through the whole process. So while I respect the question, and I understand certainly understand its concern, you don't vacate your First Amendment rights by sitting up there. I know there's obviously maybe a difference of opinion, but I really do agree that the very fact that you put your name as a councilman or mayor or council person does not mean that this is a council decision or a council endorsement in any way. I don't think any court would say so.
Got one person online, I will bring Swampbush over. Unmute and turn your video on and identify yourself. I believe we can hear you here in the courtroom. We'll have a second public comment if you want to try then, we've promoted you.
Shoot. Okay. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Do you want me to wait? Do you want me to wait?
No, I just, you had to turn your camera or unmute yourself, so you're.
I was trying, it just didn't, for whatever reasons, it wasn't doing it. I just thank you, for letting me, join. And I just wanted to address the last point, which was that, I think it's important to take into account the particular, community that we live in, which is quite small, as we know. So in terms of council members promoting the sale, borough residents have seen them doing this over and over and over again. Okay, so I don't think we can just dismiss this. I think a prudential sort of assessment would say that yes, our council is absolutely promoting the sale, and they're doing it in a lot of different ways. They're using American Water publicity that borough residents are paying for actually, because we currently get some of our water from American Water. So whether or not we want to be paying for these advertisements, we are paying for it, which goes to the point of, you know, when we go into this system of American Water, we pay for their, you know, trying to buy another community's water system. So I think we need to recognize that. That needs to be noted, that this is not just a simple, like, there are residents here who are talking about just being residents. They are council members. Everybody in this 1900 less or more town knows who council members are, and they see quite clearly that they're promoting this sale. So, you know, this is not something that we can just brush over. This is a thing that is a problem. And that's what I have to say about that. So thank you for letting me do so.
Thank you. One thing I'll just note, you know, because we did talk to them and check with our experts on this. Hold on, let me figure out how to bring you back. Sorry, it's hard to be the mayor and the Zoom artisan at the same time, so apologies. One note, New Jersey American has never, and we checked, recovered any funds that they spent on advertising for a referendum. They've never asked BPU for it. They've never been approved for it. It is true that they're, just like with capital repairs, their mechanism is to seek what they call recovery, and to have the Board of Public Utilities allow them to be paid back from the ratepayers. That is one that they have never, either through lack of being permitted to or never asking. I guess I didn't ask them that much, but they have never. So for example, South Orange, or these other communities where they have spent their shareholders' money for advocacy, that has never been returned to them from BPU as ratepayers. We checked into that. And again, I may not. It's okay to not like what some members of council or myself are saying. I certainly recognize
No,
that.
I think excuse me, I just want to clarify that what my issue is that in the last commentary, it was that our council is not, as council officials, promoting the sale, and they absolutely are. Everybody knows they are. So, I mean, can we just not pretend that this isn't happening? They are. Our council officials are promoting, some of them are promoting the sale. And they're going and talking to businesses, they're going and talking to residents, they're going and talking to them to tell them to vote yes on this sale. I don't know legally what that means, but I don't like it, okay? So that's all I can tell you.
Thank you. I'm gonna take the opportunity to ask the attorneys that have given us advice on that to just confirm once again that is 100% permissible for elected officials to do.
Not only do I think it's permissible, I think there's a certain obligation to your positions to voice your position on this. This is
not to advocate. They can voice their position. They cannot advocate, and that is what they've been doing. They have been advocating publicly and unpublicly. They've been doing it, and let's just be honest about this, okay? Let's just be honest about it.
Thank you. I've muted you. I will be totally honest with it that yes, I am advocating for the sale. There are members of this, it's up to them individually whether they are or not. It is both under our requirements ethically and right to do so. And I'll be honest with you, you may not like it. You don't like what I have to say about the sale. I'm going to continue to do that. That is what I feel my job is as the mayor. If there's something that I think is the best thing for the borough, that is what I'm going to do. I will not use borough funds to do so. the case law on it is very specific. That is the line. Other towns, have done that. If you would have gone to a presentation in South Orange, it would have ended in saying, please vote yes. We're not doing that here. Again, if there's anything else our attorneys like to add, I want to be clear, I'm not hiding that I'm advocating for the sale.
No, I think.
You
the
are
point that-
using your role as mayor to promote this.
I'm advocating for it too.
Thank you.
Because I think
I'm, no one is denying that. I think you seem to think that that makes it unethical or illegal. The advice that we're
Yeah.
getting, it does not.
Yeah, I do. And I think all of the other council members doing this is also unethical. And
If
we need to look at that, you know? I don't
Well,
see
I
why
was-
you think you can act in an autocratic way. I don't see why you think you can do that. Why do you think you can do that? Answer me to that, please.
I'm happy to- Well, let me start, and then, I much appreciate your time here, Ms. Palmish. The advice we've received from our legal professionals, and that's based on a Supreme Court case, in New Jersey that says it's not just our right, but it's our duty to advocate for such a thing. So that is what I base it on for me. And I see, I'm sorry that the room can't see you rolling your eyes, but that is the advice we receive and, the guidance we've gotten from the New Jersey Supreme Court. I would, if you have something to the contrary, I please.
We didn't elect you to act in an autocratic fashion, and that's what you've been doing since you started the WIPA process. That's what you've been doing. You're not listening to residents. You are not listening. You are not working with us. Okay? That's a fact. That is a fact.
I will thank you and again, encourage you and your group to please send me the slides that we've asked for from your presentation and give us some dates for that.
We had a meeting. We had a meeting. You were there.
Thank you.
And I'm also happy to speak for myself as an elected official. I'm speaking for myself. I think it is my obligation, to be transparent with voters of what I think. You elected me to do this job. And it would be, I think, a dereliction of my duty to say, I'm just neutral, you guys can do whatever you want. It's such a complicated situation. I don't expect you to sit through the hours of meetings that I've sat through to learn everything about this. I think it's my duty to synthesize that and say to you, here's what I have decided based on the financial situation, based on all this, the possible viable scenarios. And I'm asked constantly, well, what do you think? And so for me to not answer that, I think is an odd position to take as an elected official, that I would just leaving it up to you. And as much as I would like to follow you all into the voting booth, I cannot. At the end of the day, you get to make your own vote.
Right.
So it's not an autocratic thing. It's my duty as the person you elected to represent you to make these decisions for myself and to let you know how I came to my decision. I mean, Mayor Kennedy's administration focused a lot on transparency. That timer has gone off every public session we've ever had, and we've never stopped it. Not one time. I mean, and so for us to say we're not listening to people, I've scheduled, I don't know how many coffee talks. No one comes.
Right.
No one comes to them.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk to everyone, so I'm left to have to post on the only place that I think people are paying attention, which is Facebook.
Yeah.
We can talk about Facebook, but for whatever reason, that is our community forum. And it has not been a pretty place lately, but it's the only place I feel like I can get a or, put facts out to people who thank you, the people who come here to this meeting, but unfortunately, that's the reality. So that's what we're left with. And then Facebook becomes a place that gets very contentious. So I'm feeling frustrated because I feel like we've done everything we can to get people's attention, to get all the information out there. We've asked countless times to meet with people in every way, shape, and form, and here we are. So once again, it's up to every individual voter. I just think it's my obligation as your council person to let you know everything that I know and what has it informed my decision.
I'll just add, I think it's curious to suggest that we're acting autocratically with respect to a referendum. That's all I'm gonna say.
Ethan, you're next, you wanna unmute yourself and speak?
Yes, absolutely. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I just felt like I had to just give a little bit of a counterbalance to whatever this, I think
Okay,
it's.
apologies, state your full name, we don't need your
Sure,
address.
sure. Ethan Unick, Borough resident. Yeah, I just felt like I had to just sort of put a little bit of a balancing perspective on this kind of line of questioning, which to me seems pretty absurd. I don't understand at any level of government why someone would have the expectation that a policymaker or elected representative, a public servant, shouldn't have an opinion and voice that opinion on policy. You don't expect that at a county level, at a state level, at a federal level, and these criticisms don't feel to me constructive, because what's the alternative? I mean, what are you guys supposed to do? Just keep your mouth shut and say nothing? I mean, you're working for free. You're elected representatives. So I just want to voice my displeasure, my disappointment at that line of criticism, because I just don't see it to be a constructive one. I see you guys working a ton of hours, volunteering your time away from your families, and as Sherry said, always maintaining decorum in these council meetings, even when things get heated. So I just have to make that public comment and voice my approval of what you guys do, and the heavy burden that you have of weighing these decisions and then coming out with informed public opinions on them. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll get back in, we can circle back. There's still one more person online. EK, I'm gonna promote you, you'll be next, and Ethan, I will try to demote you back to an attendee.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll try that again. EK online, you should get a, there we go. EK, if you wanna turn your camera on and unmute yourself, you are, that'll be the time to do that. Sorry, EK, we don't know your full name, but you're been promoted to a panelist. We can at least see that you're online, and if you unmute yourself and turn your camera on, we should be able to hear you at Borough Hall.
He's saying sorry, I'm having technical issues.
Okay, all right, no worries. There's another opportunity. We can try you again later if you'd like. The chat is way around the room. I do see that you're having some technical problems. All right, thank you. Don't see anyone else online. Keith, if you have a follow-up, feel free to come up.
You gotta even, yeah, still live in the same place I did for me, so. So I think, and I'm gonna try to reframe the First Amendment question of the issue, right, is that, look, Justice Brandeis said, right, in a democracy, the most important job is that of citizen. I would very much expect, and I would hope, and I could want my council to make known their views. I think Facebook, for all of its limitations, has been incredibly valuable around this and other issues, right? Like, I would like to know, and not everyone can make these meetings, so knowing your positions is incredibly valuable. I think as I understood sort of the concern, which I also share, is that when a position is sponsored and the advertisement of that position is sponsored in connection with that of an elected official, as opposed to, right, I'm not saying that anyone of you can go on Facebook and state your position. That's exactly where I would want it. A letter to my house, like Mayor Kennedy did, entirely appropriate. Whether I agree, disagree, content neutral, comes to my house, perfect, not an issue. It's when a corporation that has a vested interest on an issue that is subject to election, then has the name of individuals on the council, some of whom are up for election, is then sent to my house or hung on my door, then has a different connotation than simply the post on Facebook or the letter, right? Because at that point, then you then have married the two, which are otherwise obvious alignment issues. So I think the concern is whether it may be legal, right, is different than the impression or the feeling it leaves among residents. So as I understood it, the concern is, well, maybe technically legal, as many things are technically legal, doesn't at the end of the day mean that it leaves the residents feeling comfortable. And here in the borough, I think the goal and the hope is that our elected officials aren't simply doing what is at the bare minimum legal, but are actually striving for a higher standard. So I'm not speaking to the legality, I'm just simply trying to reframe the issue. I'm not talking about autocracy, I'm simply saying is this, I want to know your opinions. I think it's appropriate. I think just the issue as I see it here was that the attachment between the corporation and the individuals, particularly when you have some of the individuals, because they're not saying Joe Schmo is supporting, right? They're not saying, you know, Keith Hovey is supporting or not, or opposing. What they're saying is that the elected officials and tying that to the corporation that's backing the leafleting and election. So, but again, I may be mistaken.
Thank you very much for that framing of it, but it's not about the right of the council to speak.
Sorry, but hold on. I'm not interrupting you because I don't want you to speak. There are people watching online that won't be able to hear you, and I want to maintain some type of organization for the meeting in the room.
So anyway, I appreciate your clarity on the issues. I appreciate you letting me know. I'm just simply, I didn't need New Jersey American Water to tell me.
Okay, understood. And do one last check online. I'm not seeing anyone. Okay, EK, your hand is still up. If you could lower it and raise it again if you'd like to be recognized. You want to give this another try? Okay, we will give it another go.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
We can. Can't see you though. If you could try your camera, that'd be
I'm gonna
great.
try it, but let me see if it lets me do this here. Oh, it works. Okay, great.
Just give
Hi.
your name and please make your
Sure.
comment or question.
My name's Alyssa Cap. I'm just with a quick clarification question. I appreciate the clarification earlier that the any raise of rates would require the BPU to approve that. But does that include things like fees, delivery fees, service fees, things like that? Is that something that the BPU would still have full jurisdiction over? Or is this something that the private company could decide to change or add new fees or anything like that? I understand that we have to be kind of discreet about the language that we're using. And I know that rates has been used specifically here, and I'm curious as to why that is. Thank you very much.
That's an excellent question. I'll do my best to start and let, as always do, other people correct me when I stumble or pick up. So we use the word rate usually pretty generically to mean everything that someone would pay to a regulated entity like New Jersey American. So in this case, or us, yes, it has multiple components. Our rate is not simple because it's tiered, but it's really just a base fee and amount of water. Regulated public utilities do it differently, where there are lots of things that all add up to a number. So example, the example I use, I guess, is just my myself personally, I use 12,000 gallons of water. Based, if you add up all of those fees, which when I say rate, that's what I mean, which is a base rate plus the lead service fee, plus several other fees, whether those are also rates, but they make up one thing that I refer to as a rate that would come out to $781, I believe, for as if you go to the schedule with the or tariff, which is where these rates are filed, and after they're approved by the Board of Public Utilities, it is a document that lists these things, what they all are. And my understanding is that no, the company can't just change them. They have to go through a process with the state and the Board of Public Utilities to, if they are going to change, to request them and have them then published in this document called a tariff. And then that becomes the rate that is paid. So the numbers that I use, when I say rate, I mean all of those things added together. Some of them are big, like the thing for the water component, and some of them are really kind of small, like lead service. I think for the average person, it's like $40 a year or something like that. But they all go into what I consider a rate, and when I refer to it, and I think when the borough does, it includes all of those things.
Right.
Can I just say thank you for paying the cat tax?
Yeah, it's very cute, Chinese, adorable. And just, I'm sort of saying the same thing, but in other words, so if you look at the tariff, which is the big document that has all of the rates in it, so there's a whole series of rate schedules, right? And as Ryan said, so that the rates are kind of broken up into two categories. There are fixed fees or rates that you pay per month, for example, in New Jersey American, or per quarter in the borough. And then you have what we call volumetric rates, or the ones that are actually based on how much water you use. So those things together determine your bill. So each one of those components, for example, with New Jersey American, is on a separate rate schedule in the tariff. And they're all called out, for example, in the contract. So lead service line replacement charge is its own rate schedule. The distribution system improvement charge is on its own rate schedule. So each time New Jersey American or any other utility wants to change those rates, they have to file, they file a BPU, and they specify, these particular rate schedules are going to be changed by this much. They literally give them what the numbers would be, for each case. And some of those things, that the fundamental ones change about every 2 years in what's called a base rate filing, which is sort of the main rate. There are other rates that are sometimes revised as much as every 6 months, like the lead service line one, excuse me. We can actually go up or down because it's literally based on how much money they spent in the last 6 months on replacing lead service lines. And so they do this whole file that says, this is what we spent, this is how many customers we have, and this is how much we're charging to carry it. So, but all those things individually have to be approved by the BPU, and they're all called out in the rate schedules. The tariff is great fun to read. It's about 125 pages long, but it's all there. But that's the question. So, and every single one of them is regulated by the BPU, and it has to be approved.
One, just for those of you who go digging into that tariff, one thing that confused many of us early on, and we thought almost was a mistake, is that for the almost entirely, I want to say it's 1A, which is the rates that will be charged to the borough, with the exception of fire hydrant fees. What we will be paying for fire hydrants is on a different schedule, and it's much lower than that schedule suggests. We're on a different schedule that's lower for that.
Basically, we would be paying the same rates for most things that, for instance, both township and you would pay, but they actually put us on a different rate schedule for the monthly fire hydrant fees, which is way lower, which is actually the same one for Carver's City, right? I can't get it confused. But we're on that same one, so that's basically baked into the contract, and it's I think $15 a month instead of 60, so it's a big difference. But again, that's what's called out in the contract, is these are the rate schedules that apply. So in the future, any changes are applied to those rate schedules. That's what BPU, one of the things that BPU reviewed in the contract, when they looked at all the rate schedules that will apply to us and made a determination as to whether that was acceptable. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
All right. Please come up.
My name Barbara Fishman. I live at 59 North Greenwood Avenue. And I want to make a comment about how everybody has worked on this issue. I feel like there's been a whole lot of work done on this issue. One thing that I was very cognizant of was how when David Waldman came up to speak on Sunday, he was very, very appreciative of all the work that the council has done. I felt really bent over backwards to give great respect and thanks for what you've done. And I feel that David and Tom and the water committee have done a ton of work. And they've done it because they care about this town. There was not one word of thanks that has come from you or the council in recognizing that they are working as you are for the love of this town. There's been no thanks. So I want to say thank you very, very much. And I'm sorry that when we all come and try to contribute to the council, we're all treated as if we're sort of interfering and making a little bit of trouble for you. You do look as if you care, but I feel like we all feel like we're mostly in your way. But I want to thank you for the work you do.
Thank you. Address that. Right, anyone else in person or online? Seeing none, happy to seek a motion to close the first of two public comment sessions.
I'll motion.
All in favor? Aye. Next item on our agenda is minutes from our September 4th meeting, both regular and executive session. I'll take a motion for both, if I could.
So moved.
Will I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Next, I've got our consent agenda, item 11, resolutions 2025-107 to 110. Couple of quick items here, and maybe we'll just wait till everyone files out, and then we'll continue our business once it's fine enough to hear. We've got an appointment of our new attorney, Mr. Sypek here, a settlement of a peculiar small piece of litigation that we dealt with in executive session. Final payment to close out a road project on Park Avenue and the hiring of the new public works personnel. Jared, anything you want to add to those, or does anyone have a question, comment, or something like you pulled out? Seeing.
I'll motion to move all four forward.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I will seek a roll call.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Ms. Hook? Yes. Mr. Mackey?
Yeah.
Ms. Steeler?
Yes.
Ms. Weaver?
Yeah.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Maybe.
Well,
Next, I will take a motion to approve our bill list and claims for payment.
I'll move.
oh,
Oh.
second.
Oh, sorry.
All right, that was Deb first, Krista second.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Ms. Hook? Yes. Mr. Mackey?
Yeah.
Ms. Steeler?
Yes.
Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Next, we've got a proclamation, I believe it was in our packet. Rather than read it though, if you could, I know you have the invitation, we could just give everyone the rundown. This is our formal way of thanking the volunteers and organization and for the event that's coming up, but since you have the details, maybe we could just quickly give my.
Yes, I heard, quick, so the Unity was formerly known as Women's Space. Communities of Light has been moved to October 27th. It used to be held in December. It's moved to October to coincide with Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It will be Monday, October 27th. And I put one of these flyers in the back so folks can take a picture with their phone, and we will also be sharing the information out via the borough email and on social media. The official borough lighting will be at 6:15 p.m., which is about an hour later than usual because it will be lighter. And so we need to wait until later so that it will be dark enough for us to light candles. And there are, if you would like to light in front of your home, which would be absolutely wonderful. The kits are now it's a $12 donation to Unity. They can be picked up at Dandelion Wishes on West Broad and Hopewell, or at Pennington Quality Market, as well as many other locations throughout Mercer County. And that's it.
Thank you. Next we'll do our council liaison reports. Gotta get better at not surprising people, and that seems to be punishing Anthony with going first each time, so apologies, I will.
Always doing this side out.
Well,
Yeah. It's fine, the major punishment was my audience walking out on me.
Yeah, that's what you said.
All
This
this-
isn't do it during.
They do it every time. So,
Yeah, so the health update for this month. So on 10th of September, we had the annual joint meeting for the local boards of health right here in Borough Hall. Hosted by Gary Dawson, our health officer, and the two presenters were Mackenzie Coble, who's the executive director for public health in Mercer County, and our old friend Sean Jackson, talking about aisles and work on lead, which is still a major issue in homes, particularly in Trenton. The actual Board of Health itself last met in July. The next and final meeting of the year is October 29th, so no major updates right now to share with everyone. Except for these three things, so the memorandum of understanding with Capital Health for Health Education Services has been finalized, and that was discussed today in terms of what that will look like. I'm not even sure whether to mention this one about planning, but I've been made aware of a potential opportunity for us, which is from the New Jersey chapter of the American Planning Association. They have some funding to help make public health a major part of the master plan. So they are putting together a model master plan, the public health element that we can use. And next year, up to 6 communities will be selected for a grant of between $50,000 and $100,000 to adopt public health master plan. So that may be an opportunity for us to look at. And then finally, on health matters, there will be a Vote and Vax vaccination clinic right here in Borough Hall on election day, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. This year is for the flu vaccine only, not for COVID. And anybody who wants to take advantage, you can bring their insurance card or proof of residency. That's it. Thank you.
Sure. The green team, we are holding our, we have it 3 times a year. The potluck, the next zero waste potluck will be Sunday, October 19th from 5 to 7, and all are welcome. There will be an RSVP link that goes out in the borough email and is also on the green team website. We're encouraging people to use that RSVP link because there is a prize drawing again at this that is funded by the Sustainable Jersey Grant again. Our Sustainable Jersey Grant, by the way, is almost complete. We're going to be printing some educational compost brochures, which Mercer County Master Gardeners have put together. And we're going to use the balance of our funding to purchase native plants that will be planted in Borough Park by Green Team volunteers, working with Marion Labos, who's, got a good command of what's going on in the park there in terms of planting. On Thursday, October 23rd at 6 p.m. at the train station will be the Hopewell Valley Green Team's annual Green Gathering. That is for local environmental activists as well as local community leaders. Everyone up here should have gotten an invitation. So the RSVPs are to Joanne Held, and the 2 topics are energy planning and also recycling the next big steps. The green team will be at the farmers market this Sunday from 9 to 1, collecting hard to recycle items. And next month, November 9th, will be our last appearance at the farmers market for the season. And our next meeting will be Wednesday, November 5th at 7 p.m. at the Hopewell Public Library. And we always welcome new volunteers. And open space did not be good. Okay. Yeah.
Hi, okay, so Jerry probably has this in his notes as well, but the building committee is excited to announce that the Borough Hall is starting to get a little facelift. Alan and his team were able to do some power washing and get the rear area of the parts painted, so it's looking really good, along with the flowers that were planted. Personnel was mentioned that we have the labor that's gonna start on the 27th. Very happy to get more help out for Alan and his team. The library has a lot going on as always. Their survey is out and it's broken up into different age groups. So we encourage you to go to the library website, or send your kids or your neighbors to, let them provide feedback as to what they, envision the library to be in the future. They want to hear from everyone, so we encourage as many people to go as possible. They also have a really cool event coming up called the Colonial Taverns Libation and Liberty event. It's gonna be held at the Hopewell Theater on October 22nd. It's free, as is everything that the library does. We're gonna be serving, some drinks and food that are typical of colonial times. And that's all I have. Should be fun. Good.
Like meat or?
Yeah.
We're talking about it, percolating?
Yeah.
That's like medieval.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right, you just said, officer.
Sounds like something.
I know.
No, Jack.
Fire department made 38 calls last month. EMS made 58 calls. And Jerry, just a heads up, the old topic of getting our DPW guys certified as firefighters came up again. I thought we'd forgotten about that, but I think the new young guy now, they're really interested in that, so I'm just giving you a heads up. They're interested in that.
The DPW guys were interested, or the fire?
No, the fire department is interested in activating that.
It's
to be a thing.
it's a challenging.
I say
it's a
time
challenge.
management is a challenge.
Yeah, but I'm just letting you know. EDC couldn't make quorums, they didn't meet, but I went to Princeton Chamber of Commerce kickoff event for the Independent Business Association meeting. And it was a networking event for small businesses, but I got to talk to Anthony Carabelli Jr., who's the director of Mercer County Economic Development Department. And really nice guy, basically said that he has, out of all the municipalities in Mercer County, has spent the least amount of time here, so was really open to us doing some events, and it corresponds nicely with this survey that we're doing with businesses to figure out how we can help them bring some free programming to them. So trying to move that forward, it's hard when there's no meeting, but I might have a little subcommittee, so. Senior Advisory Board, they had their annual picnic last month. Did you go to that, Brian?
Thank you for highlighting my.
And so unfortunately the borough had, it was on September 11th, which was like a crazy day. Yeah. But the AARP Safe Drivers class is October 28th. I don't know what you qualify for that, but it might be my turn to go to that. And lastly, Shade Tree Committee, the Celebration Tree Program is up and running. We're gonna have a big launch, I think, in the spring, and I've hesitated saying this, but it's such a cool idea that I'm gonna say it anyways. You know that huge ash tree on Broad Street right across from Mercer?
Yes.
That unfortunately died, which is a huge bummer.
Right, I mean, it looks.
I know, but they did all that work. Well, no one knows why.
But it seemed to happen abruptly,
Yeah,
and I couldn't imagine it was still.
I know. But that's gotta come down because it's actually very dangerous now. But my idea was, and I talked to Bill Flemmer, who said it was possible, whoever cuts it down, which is, we haven't figured this out yet, to save a huge cross section, because I think it's like the oldest tree in the borough. What?
Make a canoe.
No, not make a canoe.
And.
But bring it to the school,
Yeah.
and they can actually like mark the history of Hopewell on the rings, or I don't know, something.
No, you can do, you got a dendrochronologist and they'll figure all that out.
What?
Cool.
Dendrochronologist.
See, this is why I
You
brought it
can
up.
do that.
Who even did that word?
No, it's a great.
All right, I'm following up with you. And furthermore, we talked about what else to do with that wood, and it turns out that our newest member of the Shade Tree Committee, Sonia Cotton's husband, has been studying natural playground design. So he got really excited that we could use this immense amount of wood to build some kind of natural playground somewhere. So anyway, so stay
Lot of
tuned.
things to think about.
That ash is, it's ours it's a borough
No, no, but.
It's huge.
So that's.
Empty though.
No, it's on their property,
Beautiful. Oh.
right? It's on their
It's
property.
not a shade tree, it's just a tree.
No, but it's just, it's on there.
It really
I
is.
just, it's, and I kept wondering why it was still alive, if it
Yeah.
was an ash tree, unless they were treating it.
Right.
Well,
Maybe
we're
they
treating
were.
ours. We have one about that diameter, not beautiful, but,
Yeah.
oh, it's so hard.
So Jerry, that thing's gonna be hard to take down, so we're gonna have to close.
Well, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
So Sonia's gonna talk to the woman, cause I guess that's a rental house?
So, I think we're good. This is an interesting topic.
I'm sorry,
I think
I'm
we're-
sorry. I
Yeah,
get
that's
really
ran from
excited about
government
this.
business here.
I know, no one's mad at trees, or really don't excited about
No.
Okay, I'm done.
David?
Water committee, so, my thanks to fellow committee members, our professionals, Richie, Christine, everyone who helped with the FAQ. Not only preparing it, distributing it, stuffing envelopes, I did some, but only a fraction, but we wanted to make sure.
120.
Pardon?
You did 120.
I did. Locked me in the building. She left at the end of the day and said, all right, I'm gonna find you here in the morning or what? I said, no, but I worked for a couple hours. And now I know when we do those public notifications, how much of a bear it really is that stuff 709 envelopes, I remember the art. But anyway, thank you so much. I'll just say it's a living document. We're already, working on revisions to it as more questions come up. So we'll have an online version. I don't think we're gonna keep mailing them, but I think we're gonna keep to get them out there and let everybody know that there are updates available, as they become available. Well, I guess we had our September 11th presentation, right, which was, and again, thanks to everyone who helped and thanks to everyone who attended, to take the time to, and it was long with both, 4 hours. So not everybody sat through the whole thing, but, you didn't have to. But anyway, very appreciative. It's good to be in a community where people are paying attention and are willing to invest that kind of time. So, thank you. And planning board, I'm gonna let you talk about it if you want.
Sure. Okay.
But other than that, on water, anything else for report? No.
Kristen?
So today they did the cops and crosswalks thing today, correct? I was unable to attend unfortunately, but I'm happy to work with the Hopewell Township Police Department to make this happen, and this is essentially when a plainclothes officer goes out and attempts to cross the street. There's other officers waiting around, so if there's any sort of violation, the other officers will pull over the driver and either give them a warning or a ticket. So I'm excited to hear the results of that. I know that they had aimed to be there at rush hour in the morning, but had some staffing issues and got there a little bit later. And this will be an ongoing thing, so we will probably do some announcement like, hey, this week is happening. But, it's not, we're never trying to get you, obviously. We want it to be an education experience, when everyone to learn. There's some laws that maybe we don't even know or we forget. But it is just being mindful of the pedestrians. Roads have many users and everyone has a right to use the road. We are having our kickoff meeting with WSP, the engineers that we selected for the design assistance portion of our Safe versus School grant in a couple of weeks. Actually ran into one of their members just out and about, and they are very excited to work with us. So I'm looking forward to that. Jerry and I met with the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission to talk about implementing our complete and green streets policy, which is a bit of a heavy lift for smaller municipalities like ourselves. And the VVRPC sort of floated the idea of potentially helping us with that. We don't know the details of that yet, but we're not the only municipality struggling with this. So they're kind of thinking that, this is a good idea to reach out to us, and we might even be like a sort of pilot for this project. So, looking forward to getting more information about that as well. And I think that's it.
Always the child that brings the apple to class. No, pilot projects are wonderful, and stepping up to
be part of it is a good thing.
Well, I think it's a lot of municipalities have engineering and planning in-house. Obviously, we don't have that. We don't have that many full-time employees. So if we get assistance from our metropolitan planning organization, that would be hugely helpful, and it might also be helpful for other smaller
Well,
municipalities.
exactly, it helps, it's helpful to others to go
Yeah.
through the motions and show how it's done.
Updates for me, earlier last month, the Needle Creek in Hopewell Township hosted a agricultural breakfast, about some of the challenges to farming in our community, and appreciate the ag commissioner, and Jeff Bird, who was the assessor in Union Township, but, I believe leads the ag efforts in Mercer County for organizing that. I really want to thank everyone who came, and participated, and especially the first responders who helped, put together, the special event that we had here on September 11th. I encourage everyone who has a chance to, maybe not this evening after this meeting because it's late, but, in Borough Hall, for the next almost a year, we will be hosting a, section of the World Trade Center. And I really want to thank, there are first responder community, particularly Hopewell Valley Emergency Services, for organizing and honoring us with having the display here this year. Meetings, Jared, I met with several potential business owners or suitors for town. Again, if you're thinking about opening a business, there's lots of resources. I heard some things tonight, including the Mercer County Economic Development Center, head by Anthony Carabelli Jr. Downtown Hopewell would be a great place to connect with, or reach out to your administrator if you need help with a zoning or sort of question like that. I'm happy to try to meet and see, to get you in the right direction, to help choose Hopewell Borough for your business. Last month's coffee with the mayor was outside for the first time, right on Broad Street. That was neat. This month, it's actually getting moved from the second to third Saturday, so it's gonna be on the 18th. Weather permitting, likely outside at Borough Park, but check the website for that, where that will be. Have a cup of coffee and state your mind. I want to thank Downtown Hopewell and all our businesses who are responsible for the beautiful new informational and art display that is adjacent to, or partially thanks to, the Hopewell Pharmacy. It is a beautiful use of that storefront, and a great way to see what businesses are in Hopewell Borough. Just adjacent to that, I thank the Arts Council again for their kind of art in the windows project at the former Brothers Moon spot. There's some just really neat artistic presentations there. Also, again, I want to thank the Arts Council for their work. Time seems to go very quickly and slowly, but if it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I don't even remember now, for our tour to arts in and around Hopewell Borough. I just want to thank the Arts Council and give a shout out to their upcoming pumpkin carve at Woolsey Park. Check them out. They do a lot of great things for our community and the area. Mentioned coffee will be on the 18th and not this Saturday. Again, thank our water committee and professionals and everyone who attended the September 11th water meeting. Reminder that the video from that meeting, the May meeting, the other public meetings, it's about 14 hours of video content up on the website, as well as the contract and information about a possible water sale. Again, next week, the 14th, that's Tuesday, that is the last day to register to vote. Please check to see that you're registered. If you haven't voted in a while, there may have been purged, so please double check and make sure you're registered. Continue to work possibly on a joint project for flooding and stormwater for the Lower Millstone Watershed Working Group. They're meeting next week. This is the hope to get a grant fund to look at the entire watershed region. Of this particular watershed, we're kind of at the end, but the joint project of the municipalities in our area to try to do a regional approach to stormwater and flooding. The water committee has a meeting not this week, but the week after, with representatives from iBank. That's one of the groups that has funding and loans for water and sewer infrastructure. It's not really anything that seems to have changed, but we do meet with them regularly to see what's available and see what we can get for water and sewer. In our next meeting with them, I believe, is on the 27th.
There is a Veterans Day ceremony on the 8th at Woolsey Park. I think we sent the information on. If you didn't get it, members of council, let me know and I'll make sure you get it. It's a great event. I think so. Was it actual flyer?
Just tonight, just
We
bring
got a handout tonight about it.
Thank you. I was, I only saw it electronically, so I wasn't even used to seeing it. That's way better than I could have imagined. So thank you, Reggie, for doing that. But it's a great event, and actually I will not be able to be there this year, so much appreciated if any of you would be able to attend. If you are planning to attend, let me know, and I'll make sure that you're, I'm gonna say give it a seat's not the right word, but they usually do a ceremony, and if there's someone from the borough there, they would have you participate in the wreath ceremony. As Krista did, I want to thank Hopewell Township Police Department for the extra enforcement in that special event today, the Cops from the Crosswalk. And in particular for some continued efforts on an event that might be coming to town. And there's a particular neighborhood in town that has made some requests about a quality of life issue. And I don't have resolution for it, but I do want to thank our police chief, Hopewell Township Police Department, for being attentive to them and to us when things like that come up. Again, as Deb said, personnel and the buildings committee were very busy this month, but thinking about the update. And there was at least one Hopewell Valley Municipal Alliance meeting this month. Finally, next Friday is the annual mayor's breakfast for the Municipal Alliance. The honorees this year is the Thrive PTO, which is one of the parents groups, just as a district-wide parents group for special needs families. Well-deserved and phenomenal work that those folks do. Excited that they're being honored. But the three mayors will be at the Hopewell Golf Course. It's not, I think it's a free event. So if you go to the Municipal Alliance website, you can sign up for tickets and have a usually long, but lovely breakfast and find out what's happening in our community. So good. Thanks everyone for your updates. What's that? Okay, Kristen, yeah, go for it.
Real quick, this is still TBD, but North Greenwood is not going to be repaved until the spring. So we will be moving forward with the traffic calming project before repaving. We just don't have an exact timeline yet because we need to organize that.
Okay. Sherry, if we've got anything you want to highlight from your report or add for the good of the order? No. Sure, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Now, you all have my detailed written report, which provides updates on approximately 20 items. I obviously won't go through all of them, but for the sake of the public, I'll touch on a few of the key ones. Also, I'll touch on a few of them that have had updates since I submitted this to you all on Friday. First, with respect to the railroad station, the final payment was on the bill list for tonight, but I had been holding that check because there have been some outstanding issues. I wanted it to be on the bill list in the event those issues were completed in a week or two, so we didn't have to wait another 2 or 3 weeks to process the check. That being said, a couple of days ago, I received final approval from the architect that project is complete and all the punch list items have been completed. So I'll be releasing that check and that project is now finished. Next, gutter repairs on the library. Since writing the report that I submitted to you, I received a quote from a gutter repair company. I spoke with the CFO prior to our meeting tonight, and there may be funds available to move forward with this by the end of this calendar year. I know this had been initially a planned item for 2026, but based on the quote, what needs to be done and potential for transfers and monies in various parts of the budget, there's an opportunity to get this complete and get this moving. I'll confirm that with DPW in the next day or so. I want to make sure they don't have any pending projects that I'm not aware of that will take up some of the funds that I might be thinking of. So there's an opportunity and I'll confirm that in the next couple of days. On the grease trap inspections, they have begun. It's been a mix of education and enforcement. So far it's going well. Business owners have been receptive to our inspector that's been going out there. The site visits have been going well, and there's been some compliance and of course some enforcement when necessary. But I don't know if you've heard any, I have not heard any complaints yet from anybody who's been visited by the inspector who knows a lot about grease traps. Safe routes to school, the councilwoman mentioned that's moving forward. The state has scheduled our kickoff meeting in the next week or two. We're going to be having that here in the municipal building, so the representatives from the state government will be coming here with the consultant that we chose to help move this project forward. And then finally, well, actually not finally, let me take that back. Councilwoman mentioned the pillars and the facelift out front. I did get confirmation that work on repairing the pillars will begin on the 15th of this month, which is 2 days. So, you know, that's moving forward. I'm pretty excited about that. And then finally, I mentioned in my report, there was a motor vehicle accident, a pedestrian versus vehicle that occurred over on Greenwood and Broad. As a result of what the police department mentioned to me, they thought, although not the cause of the accident, they did make a note that the lights over there were a little lighter than they would have liked. They reached out to BSC&G, have the contract ready to go, and they're gonna move forward with placing those lights, based on the police department's recommendation. With that.
Oh, the pedestrian did not have serious injuries.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, sorry, that was in my notes.
They were seriously injured, thankfully, yeah.
And that is all I was going to touch on that change since I submitted the report. As always, if you have any questions, I'm open to answering them now or in the future.
Thank you. Next, we, for our second, public comment session. Liaison reports triggers, some thoughts for folks. So, if you're here in person, please come up to the front. If you're on the online, push the raise hand button. I'm happy to recognize you and ask questions or make a comment. For the second time, we try to limit it, though I don't think we've ever actually limited it to 3 minutes. Seeing none in person or online, I will take a motion to close the second public comment section. Moved.
I'll second.
All in favor? Now I will, hold on, just, I think our Zoom camera thought that we wanted to end this as well, so that just shut itself off prematurely, but you'll hopefully hear our motion to adjourn, which I will entertain now. Do I have a Heidi and Deb for a second? All in favor? All right, thank you again, and our next meeting is in November.